In the holiday season, everyone deserves a little bit of something, and on today's very special Christmas Day edition of Locked On Oilers, what I would give every single player on the team for Christmas, coming up next.
You are Locked On Oilers, your daily podcast on the Edmonton Oilers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Wednesday, Christmas Day edition of Locked On Oilers. My name is Nick Zararis. I'm very glad to be doing this episode today. Keep you company in the car or however you get and where you got to get today. See friends, see family, because that's what the holidays are all about. So I'm glad I'm part of that journey today. And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, where you can enjoy the NFL season with a big return. New customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $250 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. So, a lot to get to on today's show. Going to make a conscious effort to keep a reasonable pace and not dedicate too much time to any one player or member of the coaching staff. But getting on into it. What do you get for the guy who already has everything? Of course, we're talking about Connor McDavid. Well, we know there's one thing Connor McDavid wants. He got married. He got that taken care of. There's one thing left for Connor McDavid to achieve. It is a silver trophy. It weighs between 30 and 40 pounds, depending on the amount of rings on it on the given day. We want Connor McDavid to get that Stanley Cup. We know that if we bought him a novelty Stanley Cup for Christmas, more than anything, it would probably piss him off and remind him that he didn't win the actual Stanley Cup. But yeah, that's the only thing I would want to give Connor McDavid for Christmas. The effort he put in last year, the display of both performance and leadership just really conveyed and really reinforced everything I felt about him, that this is one of the best players we are ever going to see at any level of any sport. And it's a real privilege to get to watch him on a nightly basis doing this show. And I would give him the Stanley Cup. Next up, for Leon Draisaitl, here's a hint. If you watched yesterday's show, you know where we're getting Leon. At the Christmas break on December 25th, Leon Draisaitl is the Hart Trophy frontrunner. I don't care. Don't tell me about Nathan MacKinnon. Don't tell me about Connor. Don't tell me about Nikita Kucherov. It is Leon Draisaitl. First in goals, second in points, elite defense, playing with Vasily Podkolzin and Kasperi Kapanen at 5-on-5. This is one of the great starts to a season we've frankly ever have seen. And there was a feature in The Athletic, I believe it was on Monday, it might have been on Sunday, there was a quote in there. I think Adam Henrique said it, that Leon Draisaitl is a 50 goal scorer who just so happens to be the best passer in the world. And look, obviously you say nice things about your teammates, but Draisaitl is a tremendous passer. Oh yeah, and he can score 50 goals with real ease. So yeah, Draisaitl as of right now should win the Hart Trophy. And frankly, I would be a little disappointed if he doesn't end up being one of the three finalists come the end of the season and we get to award season. Next up, for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. This is one that might sound a little bit silly, but let's get Nuge some more goals on the power play. This is one of the best power plays in the entire league. It's working out of that rut that started the season, so the percentages still need to even out. But not on pace for a lot of goals this year overall. Only had a handful of power play goals last year as well. And look, I understand Nuge is there in the bumper spot to not shoot the puck. He's there to facilitate getting the puck to their better shooters. But it's crazy to me that Nuge last year had 4 power play goals all year on the best power play in the entire NHL. This year, through 33 games, he already has 2. He only needs 2 more to eclipse his total for power play goals from last year. So that's encouraging at least. Let's get him to 4 at least going forward. Next up, for Zach Hyman, we want to get Zach Hyman some health, and we want to get Zach Hyman some easy goals. Poor Zach is always getting his face beaten in. He is always dinged up. And you're never going to get a guy like that to dial it down. You know, that's the type of guy who plays with the same intensity game number 1 versus game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. And you're never going to get him to really bring it back to reality, to operate with, you know, some rationality to how he's treating his body within a given game. But we need Zach Hyman to stay healthy. You know, he's missed some games here and there. He had the broken nose. He had the lower body injury in the Ottawa game that kept him out for a few weeks. And he's been tremendous since coming back from that lower body injury he suffered in the Ottawa game. More than a goal per game, has been a constant presence in and around the net front, and is playing more in line with what we were expecting. You know, he had 3 goals in the 20 some odd games he played prior to that injury in the Ottawa game. So the fact he's ramping it up and starting to get some positive regression, that's encouraging. So for Christmas, let's give Zach Hyman some health. He frankly needs it. Next up, Evan Bouchard. This one's going to sound silly, but we need Evan Bouchard for Christmas to get some smoother ice to play on, because I feel like all of the major miscues and the mistakes that have popped up for him in this season so far has just been the puck taking weird bounces. And look, that's part of hockey. You can't control how the puck bounces on the ice. You can't control how it's going to react to different stimuli, whether it's a stick or a skate blade or whatever. If it hits the puck, it can really fundamentally alter things. And you think about the goals that Bouchard has been on the ice for in the last few weeks and the unfortunateness of some of them. You know, you think about that goal in the Ottawa game. You think about that goal in the Florida game where he plays Reinhart pretty much perfectly to keep him to the outside, and Reinhart banks one in off the back of the goalie's head. And it's unfortunate, but Bouch needs some luck. And luck is not something I can exactly put in a box and put a bow on. But Bouch needs some luck. I would feel bad if he kept getting these unfortunate bounces in these big spots. For Matias Ekholm, this one we could actually give Matias Ekholm. We need to give Buddy a cold plunge tank, because I know that man's legs are screaming. 33 years old, that is a lot of ice time for somebody at 33 years old who plays who plays in the 6-on-5 situations, who plays on the first penalty kill unit, who plays the most minutes. Him and Bouch, that first pair, they play the most minutes. Let's give Matias Ekholm a little bit of a break, because that man is tired. And when you have a very long season that you need to be able to persevere through and dig through, having your legs under you is important. And obviously, world-class athletes here. We're not talking about the schmucks who are playing men's league at 10 o'clock on a weeknight. We're talking about world-class athletes. Obviously, the Oilers have the electric stimuli stuff that they can plug into for sore muscles and get stim that way. They have cold tanks. They have saunas. They got all that recovery stuff. But personally, I can really appreciate what Ekholm does as somebody who really admires good defensive hockey from that position, because so much of the position now is rooted in chance facilitation and getting to offense and transition play, that to see a good old school defensive defenseman play at this high of a level still, it's really, you know, it's fulfilling. It's genuinely gives me a happy feeling in my head where it's like, oh, this guy's trying to walk down Ekholm. He'll cut down the angle. He'll dispossess the puck, and the Oilers are going to start going the other way. That's the type of confidence I love having in a guy on my first pair, because fundamentally, if you're on the first pair and you can't do that, you probably shouldn't be on the first pair. Next up, after Ekholm, Darnell Nurse. This is going to sound mean. I don't want to change the vibes about anything. Nurse has been outstanding for a month and a half now, I would say. I mean, maybe 5 weeks as opposed to 6 weeks, but Nurse has been great. At 5-on-5, he's been fine. On the kill, he's been great. And you don't want to change up the vibes, because to start the year, it was unfortunate. He really wasn't playing well. Came into the year dealing with an injury that really inhibited him during training camp in the preseason. Didn't get a lot of work in, so he kind of had to work out his preseason during the regular season, and that's probably a strong driver of why the results were so poor the first few weeks. But make no mistake about it, Nurse is having a really strong bounce back from that rough playoffs and the rough start to the season. And since mid-November, maybe even early November, he's been one of the Oilers' better defenders. So that's important, and we don't want to change up the vibes. We're going to take our first break of today's show, and we're going to keep making our way through the lineup, so be sure to stick around. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. You can bet on player prop touchdowns, receptions, receiving yards, completions, interceptions. Today in the NFL, we got a nice doubleheader. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs heading to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers, where the Chiefs are 2.5-point favorites. And then later in the day, the Ravens heading down to Houston to take on CJ Stroud and the Texans. Lamar and the Ravens are 5.5-point favorites. Both of those are pretty good games, in all honesty. So if you want to get in on the action, visit FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you to everyone who is hanging out on this Wednesday, Christmas Day edition of Locked On Oilers, where we are giving out gifts, because that's what the holidays are all about. It's making people feel special, showing that you've taken an interest in what they care about, giving them things that show you pay attention. Because if we're going to surrender holidays to materialistic stuff, at least we can make it meaningful and give good, thoughtful gifts to people. So after giving Darnell Nurse nothing because we don't want to change the vibes, next up on the list here, and I'm going to click over to my notes because I did put together notes, for Connor Brown, we want to speed up the passage of time slightly, because you can tell the further and further removed he gets from that ACL surgery he had a year and a half ago, the better he looks. You know, he already has more goals this year than he did the entire regular season last year. He frankly really started to come out of that funk in the postseason. Once he got to about the conference finals against Dallas, he was outstanding in the Cup final, especially on the penalty kill, using that straight line speed to create offense off of the kill. And we typically say you come back from an ACL injury 8 to 10 months now. That's where we're at in medicine, and that's outstanding in comparison to where we used to be. You know, I remember growing up that if a player had a torn ACL, that was a whole year. That was a calendar year, and then they started to ramp back up, and then they didn't really look like themselves for 2 years. And Brown has really found, I don't want to say his game perfectly yet, because you're never, whenever you have that type of injury and then the corrective surgery, it's hard to have confidence in that ligament, that joint, in this case the knee, because you're weary of re-aggravating it. You know, once you tear it, you are significantly more prone to tearing it a second time. So the simple matter of the fact is, the further removed Connor Brown gets from that knee surgery, the better he's probably going to play. And there's no gaudy offensive explosion coming here. Connor Brown's not scoring 20 goals. But if he gives you 10 to 15 in the role he plays, that's outstanding depth. You know, if you have, of your 12 forwards, if you have at least 9 or 10 of them that have 10 goals plus, that tells me you have a very deep offense that has a variety of contributors, and that you're not just banking on 1 or 2 guys to do the lion's share of the lifting any given night. After Connor Brown, this one's a bit funny, but I want Matias Janmark to get his flowers for his straight line speed, because he's fast. And when we're talking about the fastest players in the NHL, you know, we're typically talking Connor McDavid, Jack Hughes, Matt Barzal, Dylan Larkin. But I don't think people recognize how fast Matias Janmark is. You know, I think about the goal, the Darnell Nurse goal he facilitated against the Rangers a few weeks ago, where he skated the perimeter of the offensive zone, and because of his speed was able to circumnavigate, I should say, the offensive zone, where he started at the left half wall, came all the way around right up to the right half wall, and he was able to hit Nurse streaking down the middle on what was a really wide open pass. Because of his speed, he was able to bait defenders to come towards him, to open up space. And a depth player like Janmark is never going to get recognition for their physical traits. You know, we're always going to focus on the best, because there are only so many hours in the day. There's only so much content. And more often than not, unfortunately, the average person's clicking on a video about McDavid or Jack Hughes or Barzal or Dylan Larkin than they would about Janmark. But Janmark's that fast. His speed on the penalty kill is a real weapon. Him and Connor Brown, in conjunction with each other, their respective foot speeds combined, that's what makes the Oilers' kill so dangerous, and why it's really encouraging that the Oilers have started to turn their kill around this season after what was such an abysmal start way back in October. After Matias Janmark, I have Jeff Skinner. And Jeff Skinner is in a weird position, because I would not say Jeff Skinner is playing poorly or he's like struggling. I just fundamentally don't think Jeff Skinner fits what the Oilers would like him to do. I think they had an idea for what they wanted to do with him, playing with Draisaitl and with Arvidsson on Draisaitl's right and pushing guys further down the lineup to kind of elongate it. But that hasn't worked. And we have seen Draisaitl really pop off. Like I said earlier, I think easily the Hart Trophy favorite, if not at least one of the favorites so far this year. And he's been doing that because he's been playing with Podkolzin. And for Jeff Skinner, you can't get him on power play 1 because you don't want to take Nugent-Hopkins off of there, because you don't want Jeff Skinner shooting that puck over Draisaitl, over Bouchard, over McDavid, or Hyman for that matter. So you're not going to put another shooter on that first power play. That's kind of why Nuge is there, and frankly why in the first segment I said, hey, if we can get Nuge a couple more shots on goal, it would make the power play a little more dangerous because defenses are going to respect that a little bit more. But for Jeff Skinner, it's ice time. He's got to play more, and I don't know if there's a path to him getting more PT, at least right now. Kris Knoblauch's answers as far as Skinner getting more ice time haven't been the most straightforward or obvious. So I would like to see Skinner play more. I think at some point over the course of the rest of the season, we will see Jeff Skinner get another run in the top 6, whether that's with Leon or with Connor. I do think we will see that before the regular season is over. Next up, after Jeff Skinner, Vasily Podkolzin. Here's a crazy idea. Let's do an extension now. And look, I don't think Podkolzin commands anything crazy. He's not eligible for an extension until this upcoming summer, when next year his 25-26 becomes his last year of restricted free agency. But this is a player whose skill set is very valuable to the Oilers because they don't have a lot of guys who play like this. High motor, crash test dummy on the forecheck, loves hitting, loves cycling, and has really enabled Leon to play great defense and to work more. Leon has to work a little bit harder at 5-on-5, being that he's playing with guys who don't have great finishing in Podkolzin and Kapanen as of late. Their on-ice shooting percentage is only like 6%, but that makes sense. Neither Podkolzin or Kapanen is a great shooter. League average is about 10%. And those guys are going to be a little bit lower than that because they're not above average shooters. But fundamentally, what Podkolzin's doing is working. And obviously, you don't want to go crazy committing to bottom 6 guys. That's a mistake a lot of good teams make, is they want to keep continuity as much as possible. So they overpay for guys in smaller roles, and it eventually starts to squeeze guys out. You look at what Tampa Bay has had to do since winning their cup, what Colorado has had to do since winning their cup, Vegas, same deal. You win a Stanley Cup, your depth guys are going to get paid, and it's up to you whether you're going to be the one to pay them or if someone else is going to be the one to do it. After Podkolzin, Corey Perry, it's real simple. Can we get one last moment? If you're familiar with the TikTok audio, can you give me one more day? At this point, Corey Perry is a bit player. Corey Perry is Mark Wahlberg in The Departed. He's here for 11 minutes a game. He's not on a power play 1. He's not getting significant ice time. But give me one more signature Corey Perry moment. He's got great shooting stats this year because he's not shooting the puck a ton. And when he is, the puck is going in. He's got like an 18% shooting percentage right now. And Perry's going to end up in the Hall of Fame when all is said and done for his resume. He's got a Hart. He's got a Rocket. He's got 3 Olympic gold medals. He's got a World Junior medal. And he's got a Stanley Cup from back in his time in Anaheim when he was really young. And I want to see one more moment for Corey Perry. That's really it. I don't think you're going to see Corey Perry as an everyday player down the back stretch. Like in an ideal world, the Oilers are going to add another forward or two, and Perry and Derek Ryan are going to be more ancillary and supporting cast types of guys as opposed to everyday players. And that's not a bad thing. Those supporting guys do have value because you are going to have injuries in the playoffs. That's just the nature of the beast. And it's better to have someone like Perry or Ryan you have a lot of confidence in as your 13th or 14th forward, as opposed to needing to use a black ace who's only been in the AHL. We're going to take one more break on today's show of Locked On Oilers. When we come back, we'll wrap up our Christmas gift list, send you guys on your way. Today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. If you love sports, you're going to love PrizePicks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your other favorite sports, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in on the action. You can win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away over $30 million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. When your picks hit, PrizePicks makes it so easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. We talked about the football on Christmas Day. You could do something like Patrick Mahomes over 1.5 passing touchdowns. You could do something like Najee Harris over 66.5 rushing yards. There are so many options and so many ways to win over on PrizePicks. It's so simple to make picks and have fun with your friends while potentially cashing out. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly. PrizePicks, run your game. Thank you to everyone who's hanging out on this Wednesday, Christmas Day edition of Locked On Oilers. And don't worry, there will be normal content this week and next week around the holidays. I understand that people need their content. A lot of traveling, a lot of time being stuck in airports, being stuck on buses, being stuck on trains, being stuck in stations. And a little bit of content goes a long way. I really, before I get to the end of the episode, the last few people to give gifts to, I just want to thank the community for being so welcoming and accommodating. I jumped in here a week before the NHL playoffs started back in April, and it's been quite the journey. You go to a cup final, you go to a game 7 of a cup final with the best player in the world winning the playoff MVP on the losing team. You have the summer of turmoil, you have offer sheets, you have the slow start to the season, and all of it against the backdrop of a ticking clock of, can the Oilers do this? How many kicks at this can does this group get to have? And it's one of the great stories in sports is the man on the mission. McDavid is that man on the mission. It's LeBron the second year in Miami, where after losing to the Mavericks, and I think it was 5 or 6 games, they had to come back the next year and they had to win the whole thing to prove their point. And the Oilers have shown a lot of resilience, and frankly, they've shown a lot of depth. And I know at points earlier this year, and I know it's been a talking point amongst the hockey community that the Oilers' depth isn't great, but they're finding productive play, even if it's not resulting in the stats. Podkolzin and Kapanen have been great in the roles they've played. I've been very happy with what Connor Brown has done on the 3rd and 4th line, what Janmark has done deeper in the lineup. And it's been great to see Zach Hyman bounce back after having a slow start to the season after coming back from his injury. So next up, for Brett Kulak, I want him to get some more recognition. The same way we were talking about Janmark's speed, Kulak's been really good this year, and he doesn't play a ton. He's on the kill, but he's not playing a whole lot of minutes. He's playing a little more than he did last year, but I just want Brett Kulak to get some recognition for being a really quality depth defenseman in today's NHL, because those types of guys are often what sinks good teams, is that they misidentify a specific trait a player has, and then they use that trait as the justification to keep playing a player if they're ineffective. And Kulak's really steady. He's done a nice job with Ty Emberson, who we're going to get to in a minute, of letting the young guy kind of figure it out as he goes along, being kind of someone to lean on, security blanket, whatever verbiage you want to use. For Adam Henrique, it's simple. We just got to get him a fake tooth. He lost a tooth during the week, and he could use a replacement. That one's easy. Adam Henrique, handsome man. That guy does not need a whole lot for Christmas, but get him a replacement tooth. You could put him in the same boat as McDavid. Let's get Adam Henrique a cup before he retires. For Victor Arvidsson, like Henrique, it's very simple. Just stay healthy. You're coming off the major back injury last year. You didn't play a lot. You've had some nagging stuff this year that kept you out of the lineup for a few weeks. Let's get you healthy in the lineup consistently, playing every day, trying to stay better. For Ty Emberson, it's real simple. More playing time. If the Oilers feel better about his game as the season goes along, don't be afraid. 30 more seconds, 40 more seconds, give him 1 more shift a game, 2 more shifts a game. So that way, come playoff time, him and Stetcher, who we're also going to get to shortly, are at 14 and 15 minutes a game as opposed to 13 and 12, because that's putting a lot of stress on Nurse, on Bouchard, and on Ekholm. The more minutes you can distribute, the better everyone's going to play. After Ty Emberson, we are going to get to Derek Ryan. Like we said for Corey Perry, make Derek Ryan a spot starter. you will increase Derek Ryan's effectiveness if he's not an every game player. You know, he's old. It's a simple matter of fact. When you are old in professional sports, your tank starts a little bit lower every game. And if you're playing every day, the amount you come back to, you recover to, is not the same as your younger teammates. So an extra forward would be very nice. It would push Ryan into that 13th forward role and give him a little bit more time. For Noah Phillip, I would like to see Noah Phillip get another call up. I just put him on the list because I did want to shout him out. He was really solid in the games he did come up and play. He's been having a really solid start to his season in the AHL as well, after not playing last year. All very encouraging. Then for the goalies, for Stuart Skinner, I just want him to have a nice run of games. He doesn't need to win all of them. He doesn't even need to play great all of them. I just don't want him to have the one or two stinker goals that really just jack up his confidence. You know, I can still, sitting here right now, if I close my eyes, I can picture his reaction as the Reinhart goal banked in off the back of his head, where he sulked his shoulders, he threw up his mask and squirted water all over his face, and then was trying to, you know, get himself psyched back up of, okay, it's over with, it's done, it's done. Let's get Stu Skinner a nice run of games where he gets a good 4 and 5 and he plays well in 3 of those 5, and trying to build him up, because when he is on, he can be more than adequate. The Oilers don't need him to be Vasilevsky or Shesterkin. They need him to be Stuart Skinner, and that's doable. That is achievable. For Cal Pickard, exactly what you've been doing. Minimize his workload, make his nights easy, give him a chance to just make the easy saves, and that's more than enough for a backup goalie. And then for Kris Knoblauch, a little bit of luck. You know, they've had a little bit of injury issues to start the season. You know, McDavid missed a week. Hyman missed a few weeks. Arvidsson has missed a few weeks. Get everybody healthy. Find a way to keep getting a little bit better, because that's our goal here. You know, if you're an everyday listener of Locked On Oilers, you have heard me say over and over and over again, you just got to get a little bit better. You don't need to win every game, but you start correcting your mistakes. You strengthen your foundation. You keep building it out a little bit more every day. That's where you can start to really ramp it up, and you can rattle off, you know, 8 and 10. You can rattle off 12 and 15 like you just did. You know, you have played great hockey over the last month. Now it's a matter of, we know we're going to have some bad luck and we're going to have to come back down to earth at some point. You know, you're not going to play 800 points percentage hockey the rest of the way. But if you can stay between 650 and 700 hockey points percentage wise, even if it's 550 to 650, that's more than adequate. That's going to get you in the dance. It's simply a matter of, can we keep getting a little bit better every day, every week, every month? Because if you can, you're going to have a very high ceiling come April, May, and God willing, June. That'll do it for today's Christmas edition of Locked On Oilers. Everyone have a safe and fun holiday. If you could subscribe to the show, that would mean a lot. If you could leave a review on Apple or Spotify, it'd be really helpful. If you subscribe over on YouTube, please, thank you. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a safe and fun holiday. Talk to you guys real soon.